and welcome to PCC Connection. I'm Michael Engle, your host. This broadcast is brought to you from the Center for New Media at Pueblo Community College, and I'm so pleased to have you with us. And joining me in the studio today is a very special guest to Pueblo and to Pueblo Community College, Juan Felipe Herrera, Poet Laureate of the United States of America. Mr. Herrera, welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Man, it's been phenomenal having you on campus, and I know you've had a really wonderful time here thus far. Let me just jump right into it. Poet Laureate of the United States. What an incredible title and honor. How does that happen?
It's a big title and it's a big honor. Well, it happens, I don't know, many reasons maybe. It kind of really becomes formal when you get a call. I got a call from Dr. James Billington, who was the head of the Library of Congress. And he gave me a ring, and I was in the University of Washington in Seattle, teaching American Ethnic Studies, a quarter there. And he asked me after we talked a little bit, he said, would you be willing to serve as our new 21st Poet Laureate of the United States? And I go, yes, Dr. Billington.
Yeah, that's an easy yes, isn't it?
That's an easy yes. And then he said, do you have any questions? I go, not at this time, Dr. Billington. Yeah. It was pretty big.
It's one of those things when you ask your students, do you have any questions? And it's silence. And then later they have lots of questions.
We're just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
So he was very kind and generous. I really am thankful to Library of Congress and to Dr. James Billington. I mean, being the Poet Laureate of the United States, that's a very high honor.
First Latino Poet Laureate.
First Latino Poet.
And of course, you had a little bit of experience. You were the Poet Laureate of the state of California.
That's right, and that's when I got a call from the main place, right there in the capital of California, the senators there and the people there. And then I spoke face to face with, of course, Governor Jerry Brown, and he wanted to know about T.S. Eliot. And how I could have, it was like an orals exam.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm thankful. I mean, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, because he's very, he's a literary man. So he asked me about it, and I said, well, you know, Governor Brown, you know, how about just let's enjoy the poem first, and then we can figure out how we can apply it. Because he wanted to know how to apply it.
That was his concern?
How to apply it regarding California, how to connect it to the way California operates as a society. And that was a very big question. So I said, you know, I'm going to have to really think about that as well. And but then I thought about it, and you know, the T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland, it means many things to a billion people.
Right.
But I thought about it. You know, it's a multilingual poem, and it's a poem written as a collective by Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot to some degree. And of course, it's a poem about evaluating society in many ways, and has different voices, different ways of writing in it. It's all in English with some, you know, multilingual aspects, right? It's in Latin, it's in Italian, but it's also written in many styles. So to apply it to California would mean kind of an acknowledging the multicultural realities of California, acknowledging California's multilingual realities as well, and acknowledging kind of group effort. So I found a way to apply it, but it took me a little while.
Jerry Brown was pleased, obviously. Yeah, quiz over, huh?
Yeah, I would have to let him know.
The road to this point has been a long one for you. And I want to go back, well, one, I've read about this, but I also heard you talking about it today as a young child who, well, two great stories you told about having a beautiful voice, a teacher telling you had a beautiful voice, but also a generation of Mexicanos who were essentially punished for speaking Spanish, which really created a whole wave then of their children. And let me ask you something. It's easy for me to ask you that question and say, well, you had to be angry. But I don't hear a lot of anger in your voice, and I don't hear a lot of anger. Was it there at one point?
You know, it's you know, we respond differently. You know, there's many ways to respond to being punished. I think I just swallowed it. You know, it turned into like a smoldering coal. It could have turned into a fire and burst out as anger. Yeah. But for me, I kind of just swallowed that pain and that shame. You know, it's a lot of shame in being punished for speaking Spanish in front of your classmates and in front of others and by the teacher. Right. You know, in many ways in Mexican culture, we're taught to value our teachers, and we're taught to highly value our educational experience, you know. and it's a very highly valued thing to go to school, because our parents sometimes, in my case, were migrant parents. My father didn't go to school. My mother only went to 3rd grade. So they had a very high value of education, that it was very important, and especially of teachers, to follow my teacher's statements.
La maestro,
La maestra.
especial.
Es muy especial.
Yeah.
So when I got, spanked by my first teacher in the first 20 seconds of going into the classroom, it was a total shock, to everything, to me and to my family, in my mind. Sure. So then I swallowed that. I just swallowed it. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell my father. And it was my little big giant secret.
And probably not alone in that same reaction.
I wasn't
to
alone.
Hold that.
I wasn't alone in that. And then my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Lelia Sampson, in an elementary school in San Diego. This happened in Escondido, and in San Diego. We had moved to San Diego, California, Logan Heights Barrio, and elementary school, Lowell Elementary. And Mrs. Sampson is the one who kind of spotted me in the classroom. I was in her classroom. She kind of observed me, noticed me. She told me last year, at the age of 95. She said, "I noticed you." I said, "What did you notice about me?" "That you like music." "Oh, so that's why you called me up to the front of class." She goes, "That's why I called you." And then so she asked me to sing a song on 3rd grade. And being punished and punishing myself for being punished and not telling everybody was like a triple punishment.
Right.
And being punished, punishing myself, and then not telling anyone. She said, "Well, you have once I sang the 3 Blind Mice."
That was your intro? Your 3 Blind Mice, huh?
That's how I stepped into this Laureate position.
Yeah.
And she goes, you have a beautiful voice. And it was like this mysterious statement. I didn't understand it. I heard it. I asked my friend to translate it for me. Que tienes una voz muy bonita. Very beautiful voice. I go, "What happened?" I don't know. I didn't say a word. And I didn't tell anybody. Once again, my great habit of not saying things.
Holding it.
Holding it. And yet it was a magical key. And by the end of that year, she had me singing a solo in the choir in front of the whole school. So that was Miss Lelia Sampson. So I always talk about her because she's the one who pointed me in this direction, of which I'm now in, which is speaking, voicing, encouraging others to write and voice themselves and talk about their real experiences at a national scope, from a little tiny room, little tiny classroom in a small tiny barrio in Southern California. One teacher said, "You have a beautiful voice." And it was such a deep statement, and I had to work it year after year, all the way through high school and university, until the civil rights moment came, and I found myself speaking out and reciting poems in front of everyone. And that's the trajectory. And I stayed as a poet, and I stayed writing, continued to speak and to recite.
Juan Felipe Herrera, Poet Laureate of the United States. We're just talking about your background here, and I want to talk about that explosive time in the 60s and 70s, the rise of the Chicano movement. And one of the things I heard you speak about was that one of the movement's desire was to be visible.
That's right.
And now after I heard you talk today, I realized that you're the perfect carrier of that, because what that teacher said and giving you that voice and saying you had a beautiful voice was exactly what that whole the Chicano movement was about: being heard, being seen. Right?
You just discovered a key for me, and that is to have a voice is to not only to be heard. To have a voice means to be seen. It means to be visible. It means to become public. You say, "Oh yeah, I have a voice." Yes, and it's beautiful. Well, great. But for you to really have a voice, and for your voice to really be beautiful, is to bring it all the way out. You have to be out here. You have to give it away. You have to be seen. You have to be heard and seen, and tuned in, connected to your communities, to the public. And that's what visibility is, and that's what voice is. It's not just tones coming out of your thorax.
It is. Yeah, it's the quality of it.
It's just
the expression behind it, right?
You're literally exploding out of your body, which we all do, and we all do speak up. And it feels odd to speak up because you're about to say something that is difficult to say. You're about to say, I love you. You're about to say, I'm afraid. Or you're about to say, we have to do this. We have to speak up. And we're going to speak up today. We're going to go march down the street, or we're going to talk to our teacher, or we're going to, we're really going to say something that's hard to say, that's difficult to say, that we feel a lot of forces, ancient forces, that want us, you can't do it.
To hold you back?
To hold you back.
Yeah. You've written 30-some books. Your expansive work is just incredible. But a lot of those works are children's works.
A number of them, yes.
Yeah, for children.
For children. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole idea. When you mentioned the movimiento, the movement, when you mentioned the issue, the whole idea in life of social change and how to spark it, how to make it happen, you have to find there's many avenues, and if you choose one, that's great. But you need to choose many. So as a writer and as a speaker, I can definitely be a poet forever. A poet for people that like poetry, for sure, excellent. But to really, really bring about social change and to inspire others, we have to present ourselves to as many audiences as possible, as writers and as human beings, to children, to elders, to teachers and writers, and to all communities, all colors, all languages, not just Latino, Chicano, all communities, all occupations, those that are against each other. This group that's against this group, well, I want to talk to this group, and I want to talk to this group, then I want to talk to both groups to come together. That's the idea, and that's where your voice flourishes. Otherwise, it's a little thin voice in a narrow world, and that's okay. I mean, it's good. We've got many things to address, but the more people we address from more communities and from different experiences, the better.
Isn't that an enormous responsibility? Do you feel like you have an enormous responsibility? One, just let's say you're not even poet laureate of the United States, but just as a community member, as a father, as a grandfather, great-grandfather now, as someone who lives on this earth. But is that just an enormous responsibility?
That's an enormous responsibility, but that's our human responsibility. That it's like having I don't know. I have to make an odd parallel. It's like it's like having this Rolls Royce and just driving it around the block. A human being has many possibilities. We can learn many languages. We can appreciate many kinds of music. We can dance. We can act. We can perform. We can be meditative. We can be explorers, experimenters. We can be inventors. We can play piano, and not just so. Being a human being means you can choose as many of those as possible.
And make an impact.
And make an impact. Save human beings, be a lifeguard, be a community organizer, be a writer, a poet. And to choose 5 or 10 of those is a good thing. And to just choose one is okay. But choose as many as possible. Be a lifeguard, a poet, a singer, a dancer, a community organizer. Do as many as possible. Address children, elders, youngsters, teen, millennials. Expand until you pop. And when you pop, you've gotten there.
You've gotten there.
You'll know.
I like it. We're visiting with Juan Felipe Herrera, who's visiting the Pueblo Community College campus, the United States Poet Laureate. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We got more questions and more great time here. We'll be right back.
With small class sizes, dedicated faculty, and a wealth of academic support services, expect more, get more at Pueblo Community College. Our passion is your success.
And welcome back to PCC Connection. I'm Michael Engle, your host. Having a great time in the studio. I was saying off camera, I wish we could keep you here for a little longer. Juan Felipe Herrera, who is the U.S. Poet Laureate, formerly Poet Laureate of California. I can't even list all of the numerous awards you've received, but one of the latest was the LA Times Book Prize, the Robert Kirsch Award for Lifetime Achievement.
Yes.
Something tells me in just the brief time I've been visiting with you and I saw you talk today, is that almost all of those probably are nice to have, but where it really comes down to is your impact in the community and to your family to some degree, right?
Yes, what it really comes down to is doing as much as I can for everyone. That's what it comes down to. And there's only so much time I have available during the day. So I work on writing. I work on supporting other writers by writing introductions and forwards and blurbs. I work with creating new projects like the Laureate Lab at Fresno State, Cal State Fresno, which is an experimental writing lab where you can do dance and vocals and writing and painting and poetry all in one. And I'm very happy and humbled by Fresno State giving me that possibility. And I work with the Chicago teachers for the Library of Congress for the Poetry Foundation. So that's the idea, you know. And the more I do this, and the more we do what we love to do for others, the more it grows by itself. By itself, it opens up. The doors literally pop open. You know, the more you do for others, and the fields you love, whether it's acting, writing, gardening for others, food banks, the more you do for something for others, the more the doors pop open.
Oh, it paves, doesn't it? It paves.
It happens. Things happen. And all of a sudden you find yourself on this seat having a conversation with you. So that's how it is.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
That's how it is.
You have seen a lot of friends and icons come and go. You lost a good friend. The Movimiento lost a friend this week.
That's right, Ramon Chunky Sanchez. A great human being, you know. I met Chunky, as he'd like to be called, very strong young man back then in the early 70s. He was in the Aztecs football team for San Diego State.
Okay.
And then, but we really met at the Centro Cultural de la Raza, the cultural center of the people in Balboa Park, which was an occupied water tank.
I was saying it was the old water tank, right? You guys occupied that.
It's the old water tank.
And it turned into a cultural center.
It turned into a cultural center, offering art classes and workshops and dance and theater, lapidary and clay and mural production. Amazing, amazing. And poetry, of course, and theater for anyone who wanted to be in it. And Chunky was a musician. And he learned all the Latin American and Mexican indigenous folk music. So he played the tres, the cuatro, the four-string.
All of guitarra. He could pick up anything?
He picked up anything in the marimba. He really liked the marimba. So, and he was an activist, community leader, community builder, community organizer. We worked with children and music lessons, teenagers, high schoolers, teachers throughout California, United States, and Mexico. So I really am very fond of who he was, a pioneer, a California pioneer, United States music pioneer, songwriter, and very vibrant, active human being for the community, nonstop, 20 hours a week.
Yeah. And his music's available on iTunes, right?
And you can find some of his music on iTunes. One of them is Chicano Park Samba, the Chicano Park Samba. And so a great human being.
You mentioned that you're continually writing, and I found this interesting. I found this recent piece that you wrote, and I asked you if you would share that today. Can you give us a little background and then read that for us?
Yes, this is called At the Crossroads, a Sudden American Poem. And what has been happening since the California Poet Laureate years, 2012 to early 2015, is that a lot of things have been going on in our lives as a nation, as we all know, and very terrible, horrific things, the massacres. For example, number one, Sandy Hook, Boston, and all the way to the very present, Riverside and on, and Dallas. So I see this and I say, I have to do something. And then children being bullied in schools and dying from fights. And I said, I just can't watch this on TV anymore, and I have to do something. And a week later, after a young, one of the young children in Long Beach had a fight, and Joanna Ramos, and died after the fight after school, 11 years old, fourth grader. I said, I have to do something. And a week after that or two, I got a call from the capital of California to be the Poet Laureate of California. It was a perfect moment because then I started a bullying project. So that's what I've been doing, and I encouraged my students in UC Riverside while I was teaching there at that time to write poems for Sandy Hook, to write poems for Boston. So I do this, of course, because I want to do it. I have to respond as a human being, as a poet, as a writer, and, you know, being a member of our society, you know, wanting to heal our society. Just a regular, you know, meat and potatoes response.
Yeah.
I want to do something.
Okay.
So poetry is that. And then I've been meeting. And then my students did that. California did that. Was one of my projects. The biggest, most incredible poem on unity in the world was one of my projects in California. And people submitted poems and poems and poems and poems and poems.
It's a breathing thing.
That's a breathing thing. We got to breathe.
Yeah.
We got to breathe, and we'll all feel better, and we'll feel connected. Once we start cutting off, getting too closed into ourselves, we begin to lose touch with ourselves and with others. Yeah. And all right, someone thinks different than you, well, that's the way it is. Someone believes different than you, well, but guess what? That's what the world is all about. And someone gives you a funny look, well, we all give funny looks, and besides, it's just a look, okay?
It's just a look.
It may not be funny.
Yeah.
It may just be a look. Yeah. Maybe it's just a plain old, you know, ABC look.
Yeah.
So let's come together. So that's really what I do. And so that's what I've been doing.
And this poem was born out of that.
And this poem was born out of that. This was what happened in Dallas, not that far back, in Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, how they died at point blank. Police officers were shooting them. You know, I'm not going to get into the politics of it. I just want to say that I want to honor them, and I want to honor the police officers also, the ones that died in Dallas. And I'm also honoring everybody. You know, people make the wrong decisions at the wrong time and kill others. That has to be dealt with.
We have to talk about it.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we have to honor those regardless of what they're wearing and the color of their skin, white, black, brown, red, yellow, if there's such colors as those, because we really have many colors, but not just one color. We really have many colors. Yeah. And the color construct is what pains us, you know. So I honor all of them. I honor, in this case here, this poem, At the Crossroads, a Southern American poem. I'm honoring Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Dallas police officers Lauren Ahrens, Michael Crow, Michael J. Smith, Patrick Samarripa, Brent Thompson, and all their families and all those injured. That's what I do. That's what I believe in. Let us celebrate the lives of all as we reflect and pray and meditate on their brutal deaths. Let us celebrate those who marched that night, who spoke of peace and chanted Black Lives Matter. Let us celebrate the officers dressed in blues, ready to protect. Let us know the departed as we did not know them before, their faces, bodies, names, what they loved, their words, the stories they often spoke. Before we return to the usual business of our days, let us know their lives intimately. Let us take this moment, and as impossible as this may sound, let us find the beauty in their lives, in the midst of their sudden and never imagined vanishing. Let us consider the Dallas shooter. What made him? What happened in Afghanistan? What flames burned inside? Who was that man in Baton Rouge with a red shirt selling CDs in the parking lot? Who was that man in Minnesota, toppled on a car seat with a perforated arm and a continent-shaped flood of blood on his white tee? Who was that man, prone and gone by the night pillar of El Centro College in Dallas? This could be the first step in the new evaluation of our society. This could be the first step of all of our lives.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's the beautiful voice. I like to think has carried you from that time in third grade. That is the beautiful voice.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Juan Felipe Herrera, thank you. It's
Thank
been
you.
such an honor having you here today.
Thank you.
I know there are so many other people that want to visit with you, and you have other places to go. But on behalf of our community and Pueblo Community College, I want to thank you for your time and coming here. This voice is important.
Thank you so much.
We hope to have you come back.
I really appreciate it.
If you're interested in seeing some of Juan Felipe's books, you can, of course, see them on Amazon.com. And the PCC bookstore has some, if there's any of it left over after our book signing there, and of course at your local bookseller. And 30 plus titles out there. There's something for everyone. Again, Juan Felipe, appreciate you coming today. And I want to thank our viewers. You've been watching PCC Connection, a community affairs program brought to you from the campus of Pueblo Community College. Scott Richards, Lauren Montoya, and all of the great crew here at the Center for New Media. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.